21 seconds. That is the median time it takes a real employee to click a phishing link the moment it lands in their inbox. 28 more seconds, and they have typed their password into the attacker's page. Start to finish, under 1 minute, and a company's front door is open. Every firewall and every endpoint agent we spent 4 domains building gets walked straight past by one tired person clicking one link.
I'm May, and that reframes the whole topic for me. We treat people like the weak link, but it is closer to chemistry. A single molecule of catalyst can flip an entire reaction. One employee, in 21 seconds, is that catalyst for the attacker or against them. And there is one number that decides which way it tips. So stick around, because we land on it before the end.
This is the last objective of Domain 5, 5.6. We spent Domain 2 studying social engineering as an attack, and now we sit on the defender side of that exact same table. And the objective itself gives us our map. 4 moving parts, and every one of them is a place candidates lose points. We work through all 4, and we prove each one in a real terminal, not on a slide.
Hi all, I'm Michael, and I want to make this concrete fast. That 68% figure from Verizon's 2024 breach report is not phishing alone. It is the whole non-malicious human element. Errors, misdeliveries, people falling for social engineering. More than 2/3 of breaches touch a human mistake before they ever touch a software vulnerability. That is the surface this whole objective defends. And notice where this objective lives. 5.6 is in Domain 5, Security Program Management and Governance, not in the technical domains. That placement is the point. CompTIA is telling you the human firewall is a managed program with policy, budget, and metrics behind it, not a poster in the break room.
It's Nora, and the trap I watch organizations fall into is simple. They buy the training, push the annual video, and call it done. They never test whether anyone learned a thing. A program you do not measure is not a control. It is a slideshow nobody watches at 1.5 speed. Measurement is the line between awareness theater and an actual defense.
Which is why the exam keeps pairing 2 verbs that beginners treat as one: recognizing a phish and reporting it. You can train someone to spot the fake, but if they spot it, shrug, and just delete it, your security team never learns the campaign is even live. Recognition without reporting is a wasted save. Hold that, because it is the heart of 5.6.
Before we open a real phish and pull it apart, Nora, there is a question we see in the comments under every awareness video. Go ahead and put it to the room.
Yes, and it is the honest one. People ask, why are we still talking about phishing in 2026? Hasn't everyone heard the lecture by now? 21 seconds is the answer. Awareness is not a fact you learn once. It is a reflex you keep sharp or you lose.
Perfectly put, so we earn that reflex the hard way. Coming up, we open a real phishing email and pull its lie apart. We hunt the threat that already has a badge, and we settle the one argument every security team has about clickers, the part nobody warns you about. Michael, start us in the terminal.
Let me show you what recognizing a phish actually looks like underneath, because the exam does not want your gut feeling. It wants the evidence. Every email carries a stack of headers most people never open, and that stack is where the lie lives. What the user sees at the top is the friendly part. The display name reads IT Help Desk, and the subject screams that your password expires today. Classic urgency lure. But that display name is just text the sender typed, so we drop into the raw source.
And that lookalike domain is the part a tired person at 8 in the morning never registers. The eye reads the name, not the address. That gap between what we read and what is really there is the whole attack.
Exactly. Look at the from address, not the name. This came from acmacorp-it.com, a lookalike of the real acmacorp.com. But a careful attacker can spoof that line outright, so we never stop here. We check where a bounce would actually go.
And there is the tell. The return path resolves to a relay in a completely unrelated country. The from says one thing, the actual mail path says another. That mismatch is the single clearest signal of a spoof. It is also exactly the detail a well-written exam question buries in a header dump on purpose, hoping you only read the friendly from line.
And the receiving server already did the work for us. Read the authentication results line. SPF failed, meaning the sending machine was never authorized to send for that domain. DKIM is missing entirely, no cryptographic signature. And DMARC, the policy that ties SPF and DKIM together and aligns them to the from domain, says fail. 3 signals, 3 failures. This is not a close call, it is a forgery wearing a name tag.
I want to slow Michael down on one word, because the exam will punish you for overtrusting it. A clean SPF and DMARC pass does not mean the email is safe. It only means the message genuinely came from that domain. If an attacker has stolen a real employee's mailbox, their phishing mail sails through every check, because it truly is from that account. Authentication is a floor under recognition, never a ceiling over it.
So the indicators stack up like a buffer in chemistry. One signal resists a small push, a lookalike domain, a wrong return path, an authentication fail, an urgent deadline. No single one is proof. Together they tip the whole solution, and the trained eye sees the entire stack at once instead of arguing with itself over any one clue.
And the practical move for a real user is not to become a header analyst. It is to hover the link, distrust the urgency, and report it. The header skill is how the security team confirms what the alert user already smelled.
So let me give viewers the desk-level recognition checklist, because this is what a 5.6 question actually tests. A sense of urgency or a threat, your account closes today. A generic greeting, dear customer, instead of your name. A request that breaks normal process, a wire, a gift card, a credential, and a link whose visible text does not match where it really goes when you hover. Any one of those is a yellow flag. 2 or 3 together, you stop and you report. The trained user is not smarter than the attacker, they are just slower to trust.
And remember, the objective does not stop at email. The same lure rides every channel, and CompTIA wants the vocabulary. A phone call is phishing, a text message is smishing, and a QR code that drops you on the fake page is quishing, the newest one.
And the highest stakes version has no link to inspect at all. Business email compromise, BEC, is just a convincing message from a spoofed or stolen executive account asking finance to move money fast. The whole defense there is human. Verify the request out of band, on a known number, before anyone wires a cent.
Real quick, because this next part matters to you. If any of this is helping, tap that like button, then hit subscribe and ring the bell so the next one finds you. Both are free and take about a second, but they tell the algorithm to show this to one more person who needs it.
Phishing is the threat from outside. But 5.6 also asks you to recognize the threat that already has a badge. CompTIA calls it anomalous behavior, and it carries a precise 3-way split that shows up worded as a trick. The split matters because your response changes with the category, and the one thing that separates all 3 is intent. Risky, unexpected, unintentional. Same surface, 3 very different fixes. Risky behavior is the knowing shortcut. The person understands the rule and steps around it anyway. They disable the antivirus so a tool will install, or they edit the host's file to reach a blocked site. The danger is real, and the choice was deliberate.
Unexpected behavior is a different shape entirely. Nobody meant harm, but the action does not fit the role or the hour. An account that has only ever read 3 files suddenly pulls 10,000 at 3 in the morning. That is not against a written rule exactly. It is simply not normal. And not normal is what monitoring exists to catch.
And unintentional is the most human one of all. An honest mistake. Someone types the wrong name in the to field and a payroll spreadsheet goes to a stranger. No malice, no shortcut, just a slip. Verizon's data says these errors and misdeliveries are a huge slice of that 68%. Good people cause breaches every single day.
Now connect this to the insider threat, because that is the phrase the objective uses and it is widely misread. An insider threat is almost never a movie villain. It is far more often a frustrated employee, a departing one copying files they feel they earned, or simply a careless one. The indicators are behaviors, not personality types. After-hours access, attempts to reach data outside their job, large outbound transfers, use of personal storage. You watch what the account does, not who you think the person is.
And the reason this lives in 5.6 and not in monitoring is that coworkers see these signs long before any tool does. The person next to you notices the resentment, the odd hours, the badge that never taps out. Awareness training teaches them that noticing is part of the job.
And this is where the training topics in the objective stop being a vocabulary list and start being a defense. Policy and handbook training is what tells an employee that pulling 10,000 files is even out of bounds. Situational awareness is what makes them clock the stranger tailgating through the badge door behind them.
And there is one more indicator pattern the exam loves, the data exfiltration tell. Compressing files into a zip, moving them to a personal cloud drive or a thumb drive, emailing work documents to a personal address. None of those is proof on its own. As a cluster, around a resignation date, it is the textbook insider profile.
Which brings us to the single most tested instinct here, and it is the one good people get wrong. When you spot anomalous behavior, you do not play detective and you do not confront the person. You report it through the channel, calmly, and let the process work. Confrontation warns the insider and can destroy evidence. Reporting preserves both, and that is the answer the exam rewards. Michael, you have been sitting on the exact scenario the exam would use here. Put it to the room the way they would phrase it.
Right, here it is almost word for word. A coworker is downloading files at 3 in the morning right before quitting, and what is your best first action? Hold that, because the obvious feeling answers are exactly the wrong ones.
Here is a fork that real security programs fight over, and it is fair game on the exam because both answers sound responsible. You run a phishing simulation, some employees click, and now you have to decide what happens to the clickers. May holds that consequences are what change behavior. Nora holds that punishment quietly destroys the program. I will steer, and we are landing on what the evidence actually supports. May, make your case.
A simulation with no teeth is theatre. If clicking a fake fish costs nothing, people learn that clicking costs nothing, and that is exactly the wrong lesson to teach. A short-tracked retraining, with repeat clickers escalated to their manager, tells the whole organization this is real. The number only moves when there is a little weight behind it.
See, that is exactly where the timeline breaks your whole case.
Go on, break it. I would rather be wrong now than in production.
Watch what happens after week 1. The moment clicking gets you punished, your most valuable signal dies. People stop reporting, they realize it was a test, and they stay quiet to dodge the consequence.
Before you answer that, May, steelman your own opponent because the strongest version of her side is real. In a regulated shop, a hospital, a defense contractor, a bank, repeated negligence has to carry consequences or the auditor writes you up. The punishment instinct is not crazy, it comes from accountability.
It absolutely does, and I will own that. In a high-regulation shop, you cannot let a person click the same lure 10 times with zero follow-up. That is a documented control failure. My whole argument is about where on the curve the consequence lands, not whether it exists at all.
Good, so now press your point, Nora, because it is the strongest one on the table. The Verizon data is rough here. Only about 1 in 5 users reported the Phish at all in their simulations. If a punishment policy drives even that number down, what has the organization actually bought?
That is a fair hit, and I will concede the chilling effect is real, but I would separate clicking from reporting entirely. Reward the report loudly, every single time, with no penalty ever. Reserve any consequence only for the repeat clicker who has been retrained more than once and still ignores it. The careful first-time clicker gets coaching, not a mark on their record.
Now we are close to agreeing, and I will give ground to. A persistent repeat offender after genuine coaching is a different case, and a manager should know. My fight was never with consequences existing. It was with leading with them. Coach first, measure the trend, and escalate only the rare outlier. The order is the whole argument.
And here is the move that resolves us both. The metric you optimize is the metric you get. Optimize click rate alone, and you breed silence.
So you track two numbers together, the click rate and the report rate, and you celebrate the report rate in public. Build the dashboard around reporting, and the culture follows the dashboard. On that, we agree.
So here is where the evidence lands us, and it is not a comfortable middle for either side. Punishment as your headline policy is the wrong call. It suppresses the reporting signal the whole program depends on, and the data shows that signal is already painfully low. The verdict the research supports is a coaching-first program that rewards reporting above everything, treats a first click as a teachable moment, and reserves consequences strictly for the rare repeat offender who has been trained and still chooses risk. Psychological safety is not the soft option here, it is the option that actually lowers your breach risk. And for the exam, watch the wording. When a scenario describes a punitive program with a collapsed report rate, the best answer is almost always the one that rebuilds reporting and psychological safety, not the one that turns up the punishment dial. The keyword they reward is coaching, not consequence.
We have read a Phish and sorted the insiders. Now we close the loop the way a real security team does. You go on offense against your own people with written permission to measure the human firewall before a real attacker does. The objective calls this a phishing campaign, and it is something you build, not just describe. A team stands up a tool like GoPhish, an open-source phishing simulation framework, and runs an authorized campaign against its own staff. You design a believable lure, the same password expiry trick we dissected, pointed at a list of consenting employees and launch. Then the only thing that matters is what comes back. The dashboard does not grade individuals to shame them, it grades the organization.
And look at those two numbers next to each other, because that is the entire debate we just had, made visible. 19% clicked, 21% reported. The report rate beating the click rate is the trend a healthy program drives toward quarter after quarter. One campaign is a snapshot. The trend line across many campaigns is the actual program.
Now widen the lens, because phishing is only the famous member of a family. The same curiosity that opens a bad link picks up a strange drive in a parking lot. There is a study that haunts this whole field. Researchers scattered nearly 300 USB drives across a university campus. 48% of them were plugged into a computer. The first one in under 6 minutes. No exploit, no zero-day, just a human and a thumb drive and a moment of curiosity.
And that payload types itself the instant the drive is trusted. No clicking required at all. So the user guidance is blunt. Never plug in a drive you found, hand it to security instead. On the defensive side, you disable auto-run and block USB mass storage by group policy, so curiosity can never become code. That is why removable media and cables get their own line in the objective.
Removable media is one topic in a list 5.6 wants you to know cold. Operational security, OPSEC, means not leaking the small details that add up, the org chart, the travel plans, the vendor names. And hybrid and remote work is its own bucket now. Home routers, shared family laptops, shoulder surfing in a coffee shop. The office perimeter moved into the kitchen, and the guidance had to move with it.
Password management is on that same training list, and it is the one people think they already know. The guidance the exam wants is current, not the old advice. Use a password manager, make every password long and unique, and turn on multi-factor everywhere. The reused password is what turns one leaked site into 10 breached accounts.
And tying the whole program together is the part the objective calls reporting and monitoring. The single highest leverage thing an organization can build is a one-click report button right in the mail client. You make reporting easier than deleting, and your report rate climbs.
because every report feeds back into monitoring. One alert employee reporting a live campaign in the morning lets the security team pull that message from every other inbox before lunch. That is recognition and reporting scaled across the whole company, which is the entire point of 5.6.
Picture it concretely. Dana, a new accounts payable clerk 3 weeks into the job, gets an urgent email from the CFO asking her to wire $40,000 to a new vendor before end of day. It looks perfect, right display name, right tone, real urgency. But Dana was trained on exactly this. Instead of wiring, she calls the CFO on his known desk number to confirm, and he has no idea what she is talking about. One trained clerk, one phone call, $40,000 saved. That is the entire return on a security awareness program, paid back in a single afternoon.
And the final distinction the exam loves is about timing, not topic. Training comes in 2 flavors. Initial training is what you give on day 1 at onboarding, before someone has a chance to make the expensive mistake. Recurring training is everything after. The quarterly refresher, the monthly simulated Phish, the just-in-time nudge when someone does something risky. Why both? Because 21 seconds.
Initial builds the reflex, and recurring keeps it alive. The same human who can click a Phish in 21 seconds is the same human who, trained and tested and rewarded for reporting, catches the one your tools missed.
So here's the bottom line, the one rule that covers all of it. People are not the weakest link. Untrained and untested people are. The fix was never better humans. It is a program that recognizes, reports, measures, and never stops. The whole defense of Objective 5.6 comes down to one verb said twice. Recognize, then report. Measure it, or it is not a control at all.
And here is what you can do tonight, for free. Open the last suspicious email you got and find the return path just once. After you look under the hood of one message, you stop trusting display names forever, and that single habit moves you out of the 68%.
Up next is the one question every framework secretly starts with, but nobody on the team wants to answer. When all of this fails, who is accountable, and how does a board prove it was watching? Wait until you see how few orgs can answer it.
If this free series is taking you toward a passing score, hit like and subscribe so it reaches the next person cramming at midnight. The free practice quizzes are waiting at certs.professorerica.com. Now here is the one thing only you can answer. If a perfectly crafted password expiry email hit your inbox on a busy Tuesday, would you click in 21 seconds or check the return path first? Be honest and tell us in the comments.
Every point we hit today is one someone needed this week.
Now take what you learned and go make it count. This is Professor Erica signing off.